Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be basically showing you how to make an SSTO. Now, they are very hard. Don't use Mark 1 stuff. They overheat way too quickly. Just don't use them ever. But we're going to start off by making a Mark 2 SSTO. Now we're going to end up putting about 3 fuel tanks on. Plus the adapter will give us some oxidizer. Put on a nuclear engine and just sort of offset it into it a little bit. Then we'll put on the FLT800s on the side just to give us a bit of oxidizer for the rapiers. And then we'll put on intakes. We'll put on another fuel tank, or take off a fuel tank actually. And then we'll put on an intake. Actually, no, So I put on an intake, And there we go. Now we have most of the plane done. Now we need to put on the wings, or actually no, I put on the parachutes here because for beginners you really need parachutes if you're not going to really land on the runway. Because landing on the runway is actually pretty hard to do. So I'm going to use a trick where I use the swept wings and then I take a delta wing and just sort of stick them together. That gives you a pretty big lifting body, and it provides a bit of customization. Sticking on the control surfaces. We need those to lift up, which I end up angling the elevators just because it actually becomes a place for a lift instead of just a place for turning. Now I put on some more fuel tanks because I'm going to actually put 4 rapiers on just to make the thrust to weight ratio really high for beginners. It just makes them much easier to fly SSTOs. And then I actually shortened the fuel tanks on the sides because I had way too much fuel and the plane actually looked really stupid. Then I put on, I was just doing some final adjustments. I stuck canards on the front just to help the nose get off the runway. I lowered the wings just so the center of lift was in a decent area. Put on 4 wheels in the back and 1 in the front. Now if I'm going too fast, feel free to rewind the video or just to slow it down. Alright, so launching the vessel, it's pretty easy. You put on the brakes and you fire your engines, or you turn on SAS, then you fire your engines with the brakes on. And the reason for this is it helps spool up your rapier engines before you launch. Now, I had a small error with I had a glitch with my wheels right at the beginning, so I did a weird swerving takeoff. Hopefully yours doesn't do a weird swerve like that. But once you get off the runway, you're gonna want to start taking off at around like a 10 to 20 degree angle. It's not that hard, but with bigger planes, you want to take off at around a 10 degree angle. Now, once you get to around 1,300 meters per second, actually, you're going to want to start flattening out once you reach around 8,500 meters per second. Also, eventually your rapier engines are going to cut out and switch into closed cycle. I already activated the nuclear engine there, and my rapiers have fired. And you can see how big of a boost my apoapsis got. You want to move your apoapsis to around 100,000 meters, just like your rockets. You can't get it to 90,000 and get away with it. I actually think I did a boost by accident in the complete opposite direction that I meant to do it. But you're going to want to burn a bit earlier than your maneuver node, and that's because the nuclear engine's TWR is just so bad. I accidentally got a big boost with the rapier engines that made my apoapsis jump to 128,000 meters. You can see it's going to be over a 1 minute burn, which is fairly lengthy for only a 200 meter per second change. And I shut off all of the elevons just because it shifts the weight of the craft, and you can't really do anything with them when you're in the middle of space because there's no air. You can see I'm getting into orbit plus circularizing since I'm still at my apoapsis. And now I'm in a circular orbit. So that's basically how you do it. Now getting back down is actually quite a bit harder. Now I'm pointing out where the KSC is on the map. It's near that, like, the continent that sort of looks like Africa. And there's like a tiny little, like, light or yellow biome that's sort of comes off the Africa biome, or Africa continent there. I call it Africa just because that's what it looks like. But you want to aim quite a bit in front of it. Not as much as I did. I did it a bit too much, or I went a bit too far. Well, I didn't burn too much. I burned too little. And I had to readjust it. I also had to do an inclination change to make sure I was going to be in line with it. Now don't worry, I don't land in the runway. And with planes, even with parachutes, it's much easier to land on the land rather than water, just because you can't use your wheels on water, and it sort of makes your fall have a chance of having everything exploding, which you don't really want. So I'm deorbiting myself. And you're gonna want to angle yourself at around a 45-degree angle, maybe a bit lower, depending on how much your plane wants to move. You might also want to turn back on your elevons, just so you can actually use pitch, yaw, and roll. Just to have more control in the atmosphere, because you can actually use them now because there's air. Now you can see the re-entry effect starts showing up. You can see my speed start to drop. If you look really closely, you can see the KSC. It's really hard to see though. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see it over how YouTube renders stuff, or compresses stuff. I could when I was recording the video and while I'm editing it, but now I overshot the KSC by a long shot. Now I could have landed on it if I really wanted to, but this is supposed to be for beginners, so I'm still trying to slow myself down. I'm in a really bad spin. A nosedive is better than the spin that I have going on right here. On my screen, it just looks like a laggy mess. Alright, so I'm gonna speed it up. And I ended up deploying my parachutes really late. I deployed them at 4,000 meters. Luckily, I used the wings, like the lift of the wings, to sort of slow me down a bit and make sure I didn't come into the water way too fast and have my parachutes ripped off. Right before you hit the water, you want to do a quick burst of your engines, just to make sure you don't hit it at above 8,000 or 8 meters per second. And that's about it. I didn't break anything. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.